Hi, my name's Marvin.
Hi Marvin, I'm Bob McGhie.
Okay.
I'm 64.
Oh,
I was
okay.
born in Jamestown, North Dakota in 1950.
Thanks. Um, are you the first generation to be born in the U.S.? If not, do you know who was?
No, I'm not the first generation. I'm about fourth generation, and my great grandparents were born in Scotland. I think my grandfather, great grandfather's first name was James.
James. Okay. Thanks. What do you remember about November 22nd, 1963, when John F. Kennedy was assassinated? Many people have said hope in America died a little that day. Do you agree? And how did America change?
I was fairly young at that time, so I'm not sure that I can speak to the idea of hope in America, but I can say that America is very stunned and shocked, and I think at that time very gullible. We were all very willing to believe what we were told about the assassination. I think as the years have gone on, more and more has come out about the some of the facts that may not be as true as we were presented at the time. I think that JFK's assassination was not as unique as we might think. There have been many assassinations of presidents in our country, and probably will be in the future too. But JFK himself said that assassination is one of the risks of being a president. That there's almost no way to protect yourself entirely from assassination. That any person with a long-ranged sight rifle could probably assassinate a president if they really wanted to. Uh, the uh, the Kennedy era was very short, of course, and most of his programs were carried on by other presidents. But we have seen that the country changed its mood and changed its outlook on I think the executive branch, feeling like a popular president, one that they could identify with, could be voted into office.
All right, thank you. How about the Vietnam War? Do you think America had lost trust in the federal government by the end of the war? And if so, has this trust ever been won back?
At the beginning of the war, we all trusted the government. We all felt that having just come out of a world war and really having faith in those leaders of our country who had participated in World War II and were now leading into another war, that we could believe them. And I think in years later we found that wasn't true. And at the time there was a gradual discontent and underground initially and above ground later uprising against the government. And I don't think that we ever will have the same gullibility that we had at the beginning of that war. And I certainly see similar attitudes now with our current conflicts, and I wonder if people will ever learn the lessons of going to war overseas. And because I see these mistakes being made again and again.
I see. And how do you think the world's perception of the United States changed on July 20th, 1969, when we put the first man on the moon?
Well, I wouldn't know about how the world looked at us because we're looking at the world from here, but I think our country was pretty amazed and pretty proud of this. I don't know if we really compared ourselves to other countries at the time. I think we knew that we were the only ones that were doing anything like this as far as taking steps to put men on the moon or put men into space for any length of time. Of course, we know that the Soviet Union was taking a different direction in their space project, but it was a big accomplishment, and we shouldn't minimize it. The big question would be, whatever came of that. You know, what was their long-term plan and goal, and why haven't we followed up on this, and what's happened for the last 25 years?
I see. Uh, how do you think the world looked at the U.S. following Nixon's resignation on August 8th, 1974, in response to the Watergate scandal?
Well, I think the world would admire the way that our politics work compared to their own. We don't have coups, we don't have uprisings, we don't have military takeovers, we don't have wars in the street. With the government losing faith in Nixon and voting to impeach him, his resignation before the impeachment took place, I think illustrated to the rest of the world that we can change our president, we can change our government without violence and without a major disruption in our day-to-day affairs. We substituted a new president. We moved on. 2 years later, we had another election that was greatly affected by the Nixon administration events. So I think the world looks at that and probably takes a lesson from it.
I see. And in what way do you think our nation changed on November 9th, 1989, when the Berlin Wall came down, effectively ending the Cold War?
This was probably the biggest change in the world history during my lifetime. The change in the number of countries, governments, in the way that they're governed, and their total lifestyle came about at that time, in a very short period of time, without a shot fired at each other. And even though we didn't really anticipate it happening, this was one of the biggest events affecting the world, and still affects the world, that probably will happen during any of our lifetimes.
I see. And what do you remember about September 11th, 2001, when the country experienced the terrorist attacks on the Pentagon and World Trade Center? How was America changed by this?
Well, I remember the morning well, because having gotten up early to work on the West Coast, if we hadn't gotten up early, we might have slept through the whole thing. The first reports of a building being hit, I heard on the radio, and the first building to come down I saw on television while I was at work. Our attitude toward terrorism changed. We realized that terrorist acts of large proportion can be carried out on our soil. I wish that I felt more secure now, but I don't think that the steps we've taken toward preventing terrorism have been very effective, and I think unfortunately we're going to see that in the future.
Yeah, I believe so. And finally, it is said that every American citizen has a dream, be it wealth, happiness, a better life for their children, etc. What was your dream, and do you think you achieved it?
Well, I'd have to go back to my parents and ask what was their dream. What they came from was very low socioeconomic status, farmers, very low income earners, and the opportunities that they saw were through education. They did the best they could with getting education and doing better than their parents had done. And what they had hoped for their children was to advance themselves through education and to lead a good, comfortable life. I feel satisfied in that I feel like I fulfilled not only my dreams, but my parents' dreams and my parents' hopes and aspirations for their children. My my biggest goal in life was to be able to fulfill or to pursue a profession that I enjoyed, and one that was very difficult to gain entrance to. I was fortunately able to do that through the educational system that was provided to me, and by enough work of my own to get to that point. Sure, there's benefits from that, and we all think that it's important to live the American dream, but I think it's even more important to derive a satisfaction from the work that you do, no matter what type of work that is. And if you can feel that you have fulfilled your lifetime's goals and aspirations, then I think you've had a successful life, and your dreams have then been fulfilled.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your interest.